We're keeping tabs on the impact of water shedding here in the capital city. And I must say it's perhaps a strange but yet difficult time to be South African. It's one crisis after the other, load shedding, now water shedding, and both these crises hitting citizens at the same time. Here in the capital city, of course, residents will be impacted. We're looking at hospitals, businesses that might feel the pinch of water restrictions. To just give me an update of what's happening in the capital city, I'm now joined by the MMC for utilities here in Tshwane, Mr. Daryl Johnston. Thank you so much for joining us. We understand that the situation is still stable, but take us through what the city's mitigation plan is, contingency plan to obviously, deal with areas, communities in particular that might be heavily impacted, due to the watershed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, as a department, will be monitoring our water levels in our reservoirs and in our networks. At the moment, everything is currently stable. We expect, under the current situation, possibly in the next couple of days, we'll start to see a decline. The real issue here is what we need to do is we need to encourage residents to assist us as much as possible, like they did recently during the couple of Rand water cuts, to conserve water as much as they possibly can. That really is the single biggest contributor that will make a difference within the city. We do have mitigation measures in place if they are needed, but at this stage we don't believe that those will be required. So certain things like hospitals, etc., they do have mandated backup points, so they will have backup supplies, and we will be able to assist with those if and when necessary.
Areas of concern, there are some communities, we can take Lodium, the outskirts of Brongospruit, some areas, in Soshanguve. Those are areas that are prone to not having water. How are they impacted now that we have this overall, water restrictions that are impacting all communities in the capital city? What extra plans do you have to, in particular, cater for those communities, as we know that they are more vulnerable in times like these?
So as far as Laudium is concerned, similar to 2016, when we also were in precisely the same situation of a level 2 water restriction, what happens there is we very closely monitor the reservoir levels there, and then we will start throttling on those reservoirs that will be communicated with residents, as we did previously through ward councillors, just to ensure that we don't run dry. But that will all be communicated. Brongospruit is a bit of a different situation. They're not on a Rand water supply at all. Water is abstracted from the river there. We have faced other problems within the area in terms of water supply, but those are unrelated and technical issues. Some of them sabotage issues that we've been dealing with over the last few months. So different situation in Brongospruit.
Just remind our viewers the messaging that the city received from Rand Water that is at the center of this. We understand, of course, the reservoirs that do not have enough water capacity. But just remind us what exactly that Rand Water said.
So Rand Water's indicated that their reservoir levels are running into points of concern, and that they will then be instituting a level 2 restriction, which is an impact on the percentage supply to the city, and also from a tariff point of view that there would be an adjustment to tariffs based on the level 2.
Tshwane is already under strain with so many other challenges. With this extra load that's now on your shoulders, is this making things perhaps more difficult for the city?
Absolutely, and really this all boils down to Eskom issues. That's the primary factor behind why Rand Water is struggling to fill their reservoirs, is because they don't seem to have sufficient electricity for long enough to run their pumps and get their reservoirs up to the levels. So this is an indirect issue of Eskom. So we're suffering on one side with our electricity supplies as a direct issue, and now we're suffering indirectly with water, but again primarily because of electricity issues.
You are part of the multi-party coalition government here in Tshwane, and as part of the opposition, when you see these crises that are directly linked to perhaps the quality of governance that is implemented in the country. As we have mentioned, it's really one crisis after the other, and citizens have to bear the brunt of these crises. How do you respond to this? What does this say about the state that we are in, the quality of governance, and really the respect that we are giving to citizens at this juncture?
Absolutely, and in particular water governance is critical, and so in the city of Tshwane we are in a slightly more unique situation where we actually produce around about 18% of our own water, and part of my key responsibilities is to look at how we are able to actually leverage that and improve that and increase that, and that is part of what my office is looking at doing, to be able to create a better and bigger buffer. We will still always be reliant on Rand water, but we need to assist the citizens of Tshwane as far as we possibly can through our own source optimization.
Obviously, the city cannot be everywhere all the time. In areas, communities where residents might run out of water, where their taps might run dry. You did say earlier that this can take a couple of days if it really does happen. What can such communities do? Is there perhaps a line that they can contact? Is there somebody that they can contact to intervene, provide water tankers or so?
Well, we'll have a very good idea from our water levels in our reservoirs. That will give us a primary indication. We have obviously got our officials on the ground in each of the regions, and then residents also have communication channels with their ward councillors. They can report those issues to ward councillors, and they can then escalate that if we find that there are indeed problems in specific areas.
All right, thank you so much there. The MMC for Utilities here in Tshwane, Daryl Johnston, just giving us an update. But of course, it's still early days, early morning, anything can happen. We'll continue to monitor the situation on the grounds, but the focus remains on the residents, the communities. How will they be impacted? And we'll try to navigate throughout the capital city to see how are some of the communities in areas where we know water is normally very scarce, such as Lodium, as we have mentioned. So we'll be going into those areas to see what is happening. But as Mr. Johnson said, it's still early days. The impact will perhaps be felt in the next 2 to 3 days if matters at Rand Water are not resolved, speedily so.